I married a man I'd never met in person. On our wedding day, he wasn't even there. 6 months later, I watched on Facebook as he welcomed another woman into the life he promised me. And the cruelest part? That woman was living in his house the entire time I was waiting to join him. If you think you've heard betrayal before, wait until you hear this. Before we dive into this story, I need you to hit that subscribe button. Because stories like this one, they need to be told. They need to be heard. And if my pain can save even one person from walking this same path, then sharing it will have been worth every tear. My name is Lydia Parker, and I'm about to take you on a journey through the most devastating chapter of my life. A journey that started with hope, was filled with lies, and ended with a betrayal so deep it changed everything I thought I knew about love, family, and trust. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, because this story has more twists than a Georgia back road, and every single one of them will leave you questioning everything you think you know about modern love. I grew up in Savannah, Georgia, where love stories were supposed to be simple. Boy meets girl, they fall in love, they get married, they build a home together under Spanish moss and southern sunshine. My grandmother used to tell me, "Baby girl, when the right man comes along, you'll know it in your bones." She'd sit on the front porch, shelling peas and sharing stories of how she met my grandfather at a church social in 1953. Their love story was written in Sunday dinners, shared prayers, and 47 years of marriage that ended only when death parted them. That was the kind of love I wanted, the kind I expected. But my story, mine was different from the very beginning. It was March 2019 when I first saw Ethan Cole's profile on Instagram. I was 24, working at a local boutique in downtown Savannah, living with my parents while I saved money for my own place. My life was simple, predictable, safe. Ethan's profile was anything but predictable. His bio read, "Living the German dream, building an empire, looking for my queen." The photos showed a tall, dark-skinned man with kind eyes and a smile that seemed to reach right through my phone screen. That he was standing in front of Brandenburg Gate, holding a coffee cup with Berlin written across it. What caught my attention wasn't just his looks. Though let me tell you, the man was fine. It was his caption on one particular post. "Success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. Building something beautiful in Deutschland, but my heart is still back home." Something about those words made me pause. Here was a man who seemed to have everything. He was living abroad, clearly successful, posting pictures from expensive restaurants and luxury apartments. But he was admitting to loneliness. There was a vulnerability there that spoke to something deep in my soul. That I did what any modern woman would do. I liked the post. What I didn't expect was for him to message me 20 minutes later. "Beautiful woman with a beautiful smile. Are you from Georgia? I can tell by the peach emoji in your bio." "I'm from Atlanta originally, but I've been in Germany for 3 years now. What's your story?" Y'all, I stared at that message for a full hour before responding. My mama always taught me to be careful with strangers on the internet, but something about Ethan felt different. Maybe it was the fact that he mentioned being from Atlanta, close to home. Maybe it was the way he asked about my story, like he genuinely wanted to know who I was beyond the pretty pictures. I finally wrote back, "Born and raised in Savannah. Working, dreaming, and trying to figure out this thing called life. What took you all the way to Germany?" And that's how it started. Point one message. One question. One moment that would change the trajectory of my entire life. For the next month we messaged back and forth daily. Ethan would tell me about his work. He said he was in international business, importing goods from the US to European markets. He'd send me pictures of his apartment in Berlin, a sleek modern space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. But more than the material things, he shared his dreams with me. "Lydia," he wrote one evening, "I came here to build wealth, but I'm realizing that wealth without love is just expensive loneliness. I want to build an empire, yes, but I want to build it with someone special. Someone who understands that success isn't just about money, it's about legacy, family, creating something that lasts." Those words hit me like lightning on a summer night. Here was a man who wasn't just talking about designer clothes and fancy cars. That he was talking about building something meaningful. About family. About forever. But it was our first phone call that sealed my fate. I remember it was a Monday evening in April. I was folding laundry in my childhood bedroom when my phone rang. International number. My heart started racing. "Hello." I answered, trying to sound casual. "Lydia? This is Ethan. I hope I'm not calling too late." Y'all, his voice was like warm honey over buttermilk biscuits. Deep, smooth, with just a hint of that Atlanta drawl that hadn't been erased by his years abroad. But there was something else. A confidence, a maturity that made me feel safe even through the phone. "No, it's perfect timing," I said, and we talked for 3 hours straight. He told me about his childhood in Atlanta, how his father had died when he was 16, and how he'd become the man of the house for his mother and younger siblings. He talked about his sister Nene, who had a baby daughter, and his younger brother Caleb, who was still in college. "Family is everything to me, Lydia," he said. "I came to Germany to make money, but I never forgot where I came from or who I'm doing this for." But then he asked me something that stopped me in my tracks. "What do you want from life, Lydia? And don't tell me the safe answer. Tell me what you really want deep down in places you don't let most people see." I was quiet for a long moment. No one had ever asked me that before. Not like that. Not with such genuine interest. "I want to matter," I finally said. "I want to build something beautiful with someone who sees me, really sees me. I want to travel, to experience life beyond what I've always known. And I want to love someone so completely that we become better versions of ourselves together." "That's exactly what I want too," he said softly. "Lydia, I think God put you in my path for a reason." And that's how our daily phone calls began. Every morning at 7 a.m. Georgia time, 1 p.m. his time in Berlin, my phone would ring. Ethan's voice became my morning alarm and my daily dose of hope. He would tell me about his meetings, his business deals, his plans for the future. But more importantly, he would ask about my day. He wanted to know about the customers at the boutique, about my dreams of starting my own fashion line, about my relationship with my parents. "Tell me about your family," he said one evening during our 3rd week of daily calls. "I want to know everything about the people who shaped the amazing woman I'm falling for." Falling for that, he said he was falling for me. That I told him about my parents. My father, James, who worked as a mechanic and could fix anything with an engine, and my mother, Patricia, who taught elementary school and had a laugh that could fill a room. That I told him about Sunday dinners where my extended family would gather, about my cousin Sarah, who was my closest friend, about my dreams and fears and everything in between. And he listened. Really listened. He would remember details from conversations we'd had weeks earlier, ask follow-up questions about things I'd mentioned in passing. By month 2 we were talking twice a day, morning and evening. By month 3 we were video chatting and I could see his face light up when I answered the call. "You're even more beautiful than your pictures," he said during our first video call. And that smile. Lydia, that smile could power all of Berlin. He would show me around his apartment during our calls, introduce me to his German neighbor who barely spoke English but would wave enthusiastically at the camera. He'd take me on virtual tours of Berlin, holding his phone as he walked through markets and parks. "One day soon I'm going to show you all of this in person," he promised. "You're going to love it here." But it was month 4 when everything changed. "Lydia," he said during one of our evening calls, his voice more serious than usual. "I need to ask you something and I need you to really think about your answer." My heart started racing. "Okay. I love you. I know it might seem fast, but I've never been more certain of anything in my life. You're the woman I want to build my future with. Will you marry me?" What? Y'all, I was sitting on my bed in my childhood room looking at this man through my phone screen, and every fiber of my being was screaming, yes. But I managed to find my voice and ask, "Ethan, are you sure? We've never even met in person." "I'm more sure about you than I've ever been about anything," he replied. "Love isn't about physical presence, Lydia. It's about souls recognizing each other. And my soul has been calling your name since the day we first talked. How do you say no to words like that? How do you say no to a man who seems to see straight into your heart and love everything he finds there?" "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." And that's when the real story began. The wedding was set for 6 months later, October 2019. Ethan explained that in his family's tradition, there would be 2 ceremonies. The traditional one in Georgia with his family and then later, a smaller ceremony in Germany once I joined him. "I want my mother to see me get married," he explained. "She's been asking about you constantly since I told her about us. She can't wait to meet her new daughter." For months I planned and dreamed. Ethan sent money for the wedding dress, the venue, the catering. He was incredibly generous, never making me feel like I had to ask for anything. "This is our wedding, baby," he would say. "I want it to be everything you've ever dreamed of." The dress was ivory silk with delicate beading along the bodice. When I put it on for the final fitting, even the seamstress got teary-eyed. "Honey, you look like an angel," she said. Your husband is going to lose his mind when he sees you. But as the wedding day approached, I started having concerns. Was I overthinking things? Or was my gut trying to warn me? Ethan, I said during one of our calls, shouldn't you be making travel arrangements? The wedding is in 3 weeks. Baby, I'm trying, he replied, but something in his voice sounded stressed. Was it worry I heard? Or guilt? There's been a delay with my visa paperwork. Some issue with my business permits here in Germany. I'm working with lawyers to sort it out. Could it really be just paperwork? Or was he hiding something? 2 weeks before the wedding, Lydia, I might not make it. But I don't want to postpone. My family is so excited and everything is already paid for. What if Caleb stood in for me? Just for the ceremony part. It's not uncommon in our culture. Caleb? His brother? Who does that? What kind of bride marries her fiancé's brother in place of him? 1 week before the wedding. Baby, I'm so sorry. The visa issue isn't resolved. But Caleb is excited to represent me. He keeps joking about how he gets to walk you down the aisle before I do. Why was Caleb joking about it? And why did it feel like everyone was okay with this, except me? 3 days before the wedding, I called my cousin Sarah in tears. Sarah, what kind of woman marries a man who isn't even at the wedding? The kind who's in love, she said gently. Was love supposed to feel this confusing? Lydia, I know this isn't how you pictured it, but if you love him... I do love him. But I'm scared. What if this is a mistake? Then you'll figure it out. But honey, I've watched you these past months and I've never seen you happier. Don't let fear steal your joy. Was it fear? Or instinct? The wedding day arrived on a crisp October morning. The leaves were just starting to turn, and the venue looked like something from a fairy tale. Everything was perfect except for one glaring detail. As the guests began arriving, everyone kept asking the same thing. Where's Ethan? I smiled. Said, oh, he's handling last-minute paperwork. He'll join us soon. But inside I was screaming. How could I be a bride without a groom? The groom wasn't there. How do you smile through a dream that's suddenly missing its main character? But Caleb was. And oh, Caleb. I had seen pictures of Ethan's younger brother, but meeting him in person was different. That he was about 22 with the same kind eyes as his brother. But where Ethan carried himself with serious confidence, Caleb had this playful energy that was immediately disarming. Caleb stood near the altar in a perfectly tailored suit, wearing Ethan's cufflinks. Why did that bother me so much? Was it because he looked too comfortable in his place? When the music started, my father whispered, "You ready, sweetheart?" Was I? Could anyone truly be ready for a wedding that felt like a performance? As I walked down the aisle, people stood, smiling, clapping, taking photos, but all I saw were the empty spaces. The chair where Ethan's parents sat, smiling tightly. The air that felt heavier than love should feel. "So you're the famous Auntie Lydia," he said with a grin, using the nickname he'd started calling me during our brief phone conversations. "My brother is an idiot for not being here, but I promised to represent the Cole family with honor." Walking down the aisle with Caleb felt surreal. He was handsome in his black tuxedo, and if someone had taken a picture they might have thought we were actually a couple getting married. But as I looked into his eyes during the ceremony, all I could think about was Ethan. Where was my husband? Why couldn't he move heaven and earth to be here for the most important day of our lives? The pastor, bless his heart, tried to make it sound normal. In some traditions, family members represent absent loved ones in ceremony, he announced to the confused guests. Caleb Cole stands today in representation of his brother Ethan Cole, in holy matrimony to Lydia Parker. When the officiant said, "Do you take Ethan, represented here today by his brother Caleb, to be your husband?" my throat went dry. Represented? How can a man represent a husband? How does love survive when presence is replaced by proxy? Still I said, "I do." Because what else could I say in front of everyone who believed this was a fairy tale? When Caleb slipped the ring onto my finger, his hands trembled. Was that guilt I saw in his eyes? Or pity? The guests cheered. The cameras flashed. And for a brief second I felt like a ghost in my own wedding. Smiling, nodding, posing, but not living. When it came time for the kiss, Caleb leaned in and whispered, "I'm supposed to kiss you now, but that feels weird since you're actually my sister-in-law." I laughed despite myself. "Just kiss my forehead," I whispered back. And that's how I became Mrs. Cole, with a forehead kiss from my brother-in-law while my actual husband was 4,000 miles away. But you know what? Despite everything, I felt hopeful. The reception was beautiful. People toasted to love, distance, and destiny. Someone joked, "Ethan better hurry before Caleb steals his bride." Everyone laughed. I didn't. Why did that joke sting so deeply? I asked myself. Mrs. Cole, my new mother-in-law, gave a speech about welcoming me to the family. Nene, Ethan's sister, was there with her baby daughter Maya, and she seemed genuinely happy to have me as a sister. "Ethan talks about you constantly," she told me during the reception. "He's so sorry he couldn't be here, but he's working hard to get your paperwork sorted so you can join him soon." Caleb was the perfect stand-in. He danced with me during the first dance, spinning me around the floor while everyone clapped and cheered. "My brother is lucky," he said as we danced. "But don't worry, Auntie, he's going to make this up to you. He's planning something special for when you get to Germany." That night after the reception ended, I video called Ethan from my hotel room, still wearing my wedding dress. "You look absolutely gorgeous," he said, and I could see tears in his eyes. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there, baby. But this is just the beginning. In a few months you'll be here with me and we'll have our real wedding. Our real beginning." "I love you, Mrs. Cole," he said softly. And despite everything, my heart melted. "I love you too, Mr. Cole." Little did I know, my wedding was actually the beginning of a waiting game I could never win. After the wedding, reality set in quickly. I moved back in with my parents because, technically, I was married but my husband lived on another continent. It was awkward to say the least. My mother, bless her heart, tried to be supportive. "Honey, I know this isn't traditional but love finds a way," she'd say while making my favorite peach cobbler. But my father was more direct. "Lydia, what kind of man sends his brother to his own wedding? This doesn't sit right with me." For the first month after the wedding, Ethan called constantly. He was apologetic, romantic, and full of promises. "Baby, I'm working with an immigration lawyer here in Berlin. She says we can have your paperwork expedited since we're married now. Just give me a few more weeks." A few more weeks became the soundtrack of my life. But it was Mrs. Cole who threw the first real curveball. 6 weeks after the wedding, she called me directly. "Lydia, honey, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but it doesn't look right, you living with your parents when you're married to my son." I was confused. "Mrs. Cole, Ethan is in Germany. Where else would I live?" "Well, you're part of our family now. And family sticks together. I think you should come stay with us in Haven Creek until Ethan gets your paperwork sorted. That way you can really get to know the Cole family and we can get to know you." Haven Creek was about 2 hours from Savannah, a small town where Mrs. Cole had moved after her husband passed. I had never been there and the idea of living with my mother-in-law felt overwhelming. But when I mentioned it to Ethan during our evening call, he was enthusiastic. "That's perfect, baby. Mom has been wanting to spend time with you and honestly it would make me feel better knowing you're with family instead of living like a single woman with your parents." Living like a single woman. Those words stuck with me. What did that mean exactly? But I pushed the thought away. "If you think it's a good idea," I said. "I do. And Lydia, Mom can be a little particular. But she means well. Just be patient with her, okay?" Particular. If only I had known what that meant. 2 weeks later, I packed my bags and moved to Haven Creek. The drive took me through rural Georgia countryside, cotton fields, small churches and towns with populations under 1,000. Haven Creek itself was the definition of blink and you'll miss it. One main street with a gas station, a Dollar General, a diner and not much else. Mrs. Cole's house sat on the outskirts of town, a modest 3-bedroom ranch with a front porch and a backyard that stretched into farmland. When I pulled into the driveway, Mrs. Cole came out to greet me. She was a tall woman in her late 50s, with graying hair pulled back in a neat bun and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. "Welcome home, daughter," she said, hugging me tightly. "We're going to take good care of you while you wait for my son." But it was what happened next that gave me my first real glimpse into the Cole family dynamics. Nene was there with baby Maya, but she seemed different than at the wedding. More guarded. "Hey Lydia," she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I hope you don't mind that we're here too. Maya and I are staying with Mom for a while." "Of course not," I said, though I was surprised. No one had mentioned that Nene would be living there too. That first dinner was awkward. Mrs. Cole had made pot roast with all the fixings, and we sat around the kitchen table making small talk. "So Lydia," Mrs. Cole said as she passed the green beans. "What are your plans while you wait for Ethan to sort things out?" "Well, I was thinking about maybe finding a part-time job or maybe starting that online boutique I've been thinking about." The room got quiet. "A job?" Nene said, raising an eyebrow. "Why would you need a job?" "Ethan sends money." "I just like to stay busy," I said. "I'm not used to not working." Mrs. Cole nodded slowly. "I can understand that. But honey, you have to think about how things look. You're a married woman now. Your husband is working hard in Germany to build a life for y'all. Maybe your job right now should be learning how to be a proper wife." A proper wife. There were those loaded words again. After dinner, I called Ethan to tell him about my first day. "How's everything going, baby?" "Good," I said, though something felt off. "Your mom and Nene have been welcoming. Though I'm a little surprised that Nene is staying there too. With the baby, it's pretty crowded." "Yeah, Nene's baby daddy turned out to be a piece of work," Ethan said. "Mom offered to let her stay there until she gets back on her feet." "Is that a problem?" "No, no problem," I said quickly. "I just wish someone had mentioned it. Baby, you're family now. We don't need to give you a detailed itinerary of family business. Just try to be flexible, okay? Flexible. Be patient. Be a proper wife." The list of expectations was growing, but what I was supposed to be doing exactly remained unclear. That night, lying in the guest bedroom, which had clearly been Maya's nursery before I arrived, based on the remnants of alphabet stickers on the walls, I stared at the ceiling and wondered what I had gotten myself into. But if I thought that first day was awkward, I had no idea what was coming. Because Mrs. Cole's definition of taking care of me was about to become very, very clear. Living with the Cole family was like learning a dance where nobody taught you the steps, but everyone expected you to keep time with the music. Within the first week, the unspoken rules became crystal clear. Rules like I am the daughter-in-law, which meant I am family, but I am also the newest addition, which meant I ranked last in the household hierarchy since Ethan was sending money to support the household, something I learned when I overheard Mrs. Cole on the phone saying, "Ethan's wife is here now, so that extra money he's sending should help with groceries." I was expected to contribute in other ways. Any questions about timeline, plans, or my future were met with variations of "Don't rush Ethan. He's working hard for all of us." My days began to fall into a routine. I'd wake up around 7 a.m. to the sound of Maya crying. Nene would stumble out of her bedroom looking exhausted, and I'd offer to help with the baby while she showered. "You don't have to do that," she'd say, but she'd hand Maya over gratefully. I'd make breakfast for everyone. Usually eggs, grits, and whatever meat was on sale. Mrs. Cole would appear around 8:30, fully dressed and ready for the day, and would inspect the kitchen like a general reviewing troops. "The eggs are a little runny today, dear," she'd say. Or, "Next time, use a little less salt in the grits." Never, "Thank you." Always a gentle correction. After breakfast, the day stretched out endlessly. Nene would disappear with Maya, either to run errands or visit friends. Mrs. Cole had her routines, garden work, phone calls with church ladies, soap operas in the afternoon. And I had nothing. I was thinking about driving into the next town to see about a job, I mentioned one morning while washing dishes. "What kind of job?" Mrs. Cole asked, not looking up from her newspaper. "Maybe retail or restaurant work. Something to keep me busy." "And how would you get there?" "It's 30 minutes each way and you'd need someone to drive you since you don't know the area." He was right. I was completely dependent on her for transportation, since I'd sold my car before the move to Haven Creek, thinking I'd only be there for a few weeks. "Besides," she continued, "what happens when Ethan calls? He calls at the same time every day. You wouldn't want to miss his calls because you're at some job." And that was that. The job conversation was closed. Instead, I found myself becoming the unofficial household manager. I did the grocery shopping with Mrs. Cole's list and her supervision. I cooked most of the meals. I helped with Maya when Nene was overwhelmed. I cleaned, organized, and tried to make myself useful. "It's good practice," Mrs. Cole would say approvingly. "Ethan's going to want a wife who knows how to run a household." But it was the evening phone calls with Ethan that really showed me how isolated I was becoming. "How was your day, baby?" he'd ask. "Good. Helped your mom with some things around the house. Spent time with Maya." The usual. "That's my girl. I love that you're bonding with my family." But when I tried to talk about feeling restless or wanting to do something more purposeful, his response was always the same. Just a little longer, Lydia. I know it's hard, but think about it like an investment in our future. You're learning about the family you're marrying into. And Mom's teaching you things that will make you an even better wife. A better wife. Everything came back to being a better wife. But what about being a fulfilled person? What about my dreams, my goals, my identity beyond Mrs. Cole? 1 month into my stay in Haven Creek, I had a moment that crystallized everything. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner as usual, when I caught my reflection in the window above the sink. I looked smaller somehow. My hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail instead of the stylish cuts I used to wear. I was dressed in the sensible clothes Mrs. Cole had suggested I buy, loose-fitting jeans and plain t-shirts that she said were more appropriate for a married woman. When had I become this person? And more importantly, when had I agreed to it? That night I tried to talk to Nene. We were both in the living room after Mrs. Cole had gone to bed. Maya was sleeping and for once we had some quiet time. Nene, I said carefully, can I ask you something? She looked up from her phone. Sure. How long have you been living here with your mom? About 8 months. Maya's daddy turned out to be married, so I came home to figure things out. And what's your plan? Long term, I mean. He shrugged. Haven't really thought about it. Mom says there's no rush. Family helps family. What about your own place? Your own life? For the first time I saw something flicker in Nene's eyes. Maybe frustration, maybe sadness. Lydia, in this family we take care of each other. Sometimes that means putting individual wants aside for the good of the family. Ethan's in Germany taking care of all of us financially. Mom's here taking care of Maya and me. And now you're here and we're all taking care of each other until Ethan can bring you over. But what if? I started to ask. What if what? What if the waiting never ends? Nene was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, that's not a question you want to ask out loud in this house, Lydia. And that's when I realized that I wasn't the only one who felt trapped. But unlike me, Nene had accepted her cage. The question was I going to accept mine? But before I could answer that question, everything changed. Because Mrs. Cole was about to show me exactly what family loyalty meant in the Cole household. 2 months into my stay in Haven Creek, I started noticing patterns that made my skin crawl. It started with small things. Mrs. Cole would mention casually that she'd been talking to Ethan about me. I told him how helpful you've been around the house, she'd say while we were folding laundry together. He's so pleased that you're fitting in so well with the family. But then I realized that these weren't just casual conversations. Mrs. Cole was reporting on me daily. I discovered this by accident when I walked into the kitchen one morning and heard her on the phone. She seems restless, son. Keeps talking about getting a job or starting some business. I told her that her job right now should be learning to be a good wife, but she seems resistant to the idea. I froze in the doorway listening. No, she's not ungrateful. She's young. She needs guidance. Don't worry, I'm handling it. That evening when Ethan called, I could hear the difference in his voice immediately. Baby, Mom says you've been talking about getting a job. I thought we agreed that you'd focus on family time while you wait for the paperwork. Then I never agreed to that. I just mentioned that I was feeling restless. Restless? Lydia, you're living with my family, eating food I pay for, and all I'm asking is that you be patient while I work my ass off in Germany to build our future. How is that making you restless? The way he said it made me feel like I was being unreasonable. Like wanting to have purpose and identity beyond waiting was somehow selfish. I'm not complaining, I said quickly. Just what? Just not satisfied with what I'm providing? Just not grateful for the sacrifice I'm making. And there was the first time Ethan raised his voice with me. The first time he made me feel small and ungrateful for wanting more than just existing. I'm sorry, I said, and I hated myself for apologizing. I am grateful that I just miss having something to do. His voice softened immediately. Baby, I know this is hard. But think about it like this, you're getting to know my family and they're getting to know you. When you come to Germany, you'll be so much more prepared to be my wife because you'll understand where I come from. My wife. Not yourself. Not the woman I love. My wife. Like that was my entire identity. But the manipulation was just getting started. The next week, Mrs. Cole started a new campaign. Lydia, honey, I've been thinking. You know, Ethan works so hard and he's been supporting this household for years. Even before you came along, he was sending money for me and for Nene and Maya." I nodded, not sure where this was going. "And now he's working extra hard because he knows he'll have a wife to provide for soon. The pressure he must be under." "I never thought about it like that," I said. "Oh honey, of course you didn't. You're young and you've never had to think about supporting multiple people. But Ethan? He's been the man of this family since his daddy died. He's been taking care of all of us. And now he's trying to navigate immigration paperwork, work longer hours to make extra money, all while missing his new wife terribly." She paused to let that sink in. "I just hope he knows how much we all appreciate his sacrifice. And I hope his wife shows him that appreciation instead of making him feel like what he's providing isn't enough." I felt like I'd been slapped. "Mrs. Cole, I would never make Ethan feel unappreciated." "Of course not, dear. I'm just saying that sometimes, without meaning to, we can make the people who love us feel like they're failing when they're actually doing everything they can." That night, I called Ethan with tears in my eyes. "Baby, I'm so sorry if I've been ungrateful. Your mom helped me understand how much pressure you're under, and I just want you to know that I see how hard you're working for us." "Lydia, what brought this on?" So I told him about my conversation with his mother, about how I now understood the sacrifices he was making. "Mom's right," he said quietly. "I am under a lot of pressure. And sometimes when you talk about wanting to work or feeling restless, it makes me feel like I'm not doing enough. Like you're not happy with what I'm providing." And just like that, I became the problem. My legitimate feelings of isolation and purposelessness became evidence of my ingratitude. My desire for independence became a critique of his manhood. From that day forward, I stopped mentioning jobs, businesses, or anything that might make Ethan feel like he wasn't enough. I became smaller, quieter, more compliant. And Mrs. Cole? She smiled more. 3 months into living in Haven Creek, something inside me started to break. It wasn't dramatic. There was no single moment where everything fell apart. Instead, it was like watching a building erode slowly. You don't notice the damage until one day you realize the foundation is gone. I stopped calling my parents as often. When my mother would ask how I was doing, I'd give her the sanitized version. "Good, Mom. Just waiting for the paperwork. Ethan's working hard on it." I stopped talking to Sarah, my cousin who had been my best friend since childhood. She'd gotten engaged and was planning her own wedding, and every time she'd call excited about dress shopping or venue tours, I felt this bitter resentment rise in my throat. Why did she get a normal engagement? A normal wedding? A fiancé who was actually present? The only person I talked to regularly was Ethan, and even those conversations had become scripted. "How was your day, baby?" "Good. Helped your mom. Spent time with Maya. Made dinner. That's my girl. I'm so proud of how well you're fitting in with the family." Fitting in. Like I was a puzzle piece being forced into the wrong space. But it was a random Monday in February, 4 months after the wedding, that everything came crashing down. I was scrolling through Facebook during one of my endless afternoons when I saw a post that made my blood run cold. It was from someone named Marcus Johnson, and he'd tagged Ethan in it. The post was a picture of a group of people at what looked like a party. And there, in the center of the photo, was Ethan. But that wasn't what made me freeze. Standing next to Ethan, his arm casually draped around her shoulders, was a woman. A beautiful woman with long braids and a smile that suggested she was very comfortable being that close to my husband. The caption read, "Berlin Nights with the crew." Ethan Cole finally introduced us to the mystery lady. About time, bro. Mystery lady. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. I clicked on the comments. There were about 15 of them, mostly friends congratulating Ethan or making jokes. But one comment stopped my heart. "Y'all are such a cute couple. How long have you been together?" And someone had replied, "They've been together since last summer, but Ethan likes to keep his personal life private. Can't blame him after all the drama with his ex." Last summer. That was before he even proposed to me. I scrolled through the woman's profile. Her name was Jasmine Williams. She was from New York originally, but her recent posts were all from Berlin. Pictures of cafes, museums, the Brandenburg Gate. And there, buried in her photos from October, my wedding month, was a picture of her and Ethan at what looked like his apartment. The same apartment he'd shown me during our video calls. He was sitting on his couch. His couch. In his home. The caption, "Home sweet home." I ran to the bathroom and threw up. When I came out, Mrs. Cole was standing in the hallway. Lydia, honey, are you okay? I heard you being sick. I looked at her, really looked at her. And suddenly everything clicked into place. She knew. The way she'd never asked about when I'd be going to Germany. The way she'd always changed the subject when I'd bring up immigration paperwork. The way she'd encouraged me to be patient and flexible. She knew there was no paperwork.no immigration process. No plan to bring me to Germany. Because Ethan already had someone living with him. Did you know? I asked, my voice shaking. Know what, dear? About Jasmine. Did you know about her? Mrs. Cole's face didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Lydia, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. I shouted, and it was the first time I'd raised my voice in that house. There's another woman living with Ethan in Germany. I just saw pictures of her in his apartment. Did you know? For a long moment Mrs. Cole just stared at me. Then she sighed and sat down at the kitchen table. Sit down, Lydia. I don't want to sit down. I want answers. Sit down. I sat. Mrs. Cole folded her hands on the table, looking at me with an expression that was almost pitying. Lydia, you're young, so you don't understand how the world works yet. But I'm going to explain it to you, and I want you to listen carefully. Ethan is a successful man. He works hard, he sends money home to support his family, and yes, he has a life in Germany. A full life. Did you really think he was going to give up and end everything he'd built to bring a woman he met on Instagram to live with him? I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. But, we're married. You had a ceremony, Mrs. Cole corrected. A nice ceremony that made the family happy and gave you a story to tell. But Lydia, honey, men like Ethan, men who are building empires, they don't have time for fairy tales. They need practical arrangements. Practical arrangements? I repeated, my voice hollow. Yes. You're here with family where you're safe and cared for. Ethan's there building wealth that will eventually benefit all of us. And yes, he has companionship there. That's just how these things work. So the paperwork. The immigration process. There is no immigration process, Lydia. There never was. The room started spinning, and you knew this the whole time? When you invited me to live here. When you told me to be patient. Mrs. Cole shrugged. I invited you here because you're part of the family now. And family takes care of family. You have a roof over your head, food to eat, and a husband who provides financially. Many women would be grateful for that. I stood up so fast my chair fell backward. I married him, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I married him. I gave up my job, my independence, my life because he promised we'd build a future together. And you're telling me it was all a lie. Not a lie, Mrs. Cole said calmly. Just different than you expected. But Lydia, you need to understand something. Ethan has been supporting this family for years. Long before you came along. And that's not going to change just because you're having feelings about some woman in Germany. That's when I snapped. Some woman. She's living in his house. She's living the life he promised me. Lower your voice, Mrs. Cole said sharply. You're going to wake Maya. I don't care about Maya. I don't care about this family. All you people have done is lie to me and use me. Used you? Mrs. Cole stood up, her eyes cold. Girl, you've been living in my house, eating food that Ethan pays for, contributing nothing but some cooking and cleaning. If anyone's been used here, it's this family. And there was the truth behind all the daughter and family talk. I was free labor. A housekeeper who paid for the privilege with her dignity. I walked to the guest bedroom, threw my belongings into my suitcase and called my father. Daddy, I said when he answered, and my voice broke. I need you to come get me. Please. I need to come home. An hour later my father's truck pulled into the driveway. He didn't ask questions, just loaded my suitcase and held the door open. As we were pulling away, I saw Mrs. Cole standing on the porch, her arms crossed. And I saw Nene in the window holding Maya, watching me leave. For a moment I wondered if she envied my escape. The drive back to Savannah was silent. My father didn't push me to talk, just drove with one hand on the wheel and occasionally reached over to squeeze my hand. When we got home, my mother took one look at my face and burst into tears. I knew something was wrong, she said, pulling me into her arms. I knew it, but you kept saying everything was fine. That night I told them everything. The wedding where the groom didn't show up. The months of waiting in Haven Creek. The isolation. The manipulation. And finally the woman in Germany. My father's jaw clenched tighter with every word. I want to call this boy, he said when I finished. I want to call him and ask him what kind of man does this to a woman. Daddy, please don't. Why not? He needs to answer for this. Because, I said, and my voice was stronger than I expected, he doesn't deserve my energy anymore. None of them do. But of course Ethan called. Multiple times. I ignored the first 5 calls. Then the text started. Baby, mom told me you left. What's going on? Lydia, we need to talk about this like adults. You're overreacting. Let me explain. You're being childish. Call me back. Finally I answered. Explain, I said, my voice cold. Explain, Jasmine. Explain why she's living in your apartment. Explain why I've been waiting in your mother's house like an idiot while you were building a life with someone else. There was a long pause. How did you find out about Jasmine? Not she means nothing. Not, it's not what you think. Just, how did you find out? Does it matter how I found out? I asked. Lydia, it's complicated. No, Ethan. Betrayal isn't complicated. Lies aren't complicated. What's complicated is how you could marry me, make promises to me, and then go home to another woman every single night. It's not like that. Then what is it like? Please enlighten me. He sighed. Jasmine. She's been helping me with my business. She moved to Berlin for work and we became friends and things just happened. But that doesn't change how I feel about you. How you feel about me. Ethan, you married me and left me in your mother's house while you played house with another woman. I didn't leave you anywhere. I told you to be patient while I sorted out the paperwork. There is no paperwork. I shouted. Your mother told me. There never was any paperwork, was there? You never planned to bring me to Germany. Silence. Was any of it real? I asked and my voice broke. Did you ever actually love me? Or was I just, what? Entertainment? A way to get free labor for your mother's house. Of course I loved you, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. I still do. But Lydia, you have to understand. My life here is established. I have a business, a routine, commitments. I couldn't just change everything overnight. You married me. I married you because I meant everything I said. About wanting a family, about building a legacy. That's still true. But the timing, the logistics, it's more complicated than I expected. And Jasmine is temporary. She understands that this is a business arrangement. Stop, I said. Just stop. I don't want to hear any more lies. What do you want from me, Lydia? I want a divorce. The line went quiet again. You don't mean that. I mean it more than I've ever meant anything in my life. I want a divorce, Ethan. I want out of this nightmare you created. Baby, let's not make any rash decisions. Come back to Haven Creek, we'll talk about this. I'm never going back there. And I'm never talking to you again after today. My lawyer will contact you about the divorce. Lawyer? He laughed, but it sounded forced. Lydia, with what money? You don't have a job. You don't have savings. You really think you can afford to divorce me? And that's when I realized something important. You're right, I said. I don't have money. I don't have a job. But you know what I do have? My voice. My story. And I'm going to tell it to everyone who will listen. Your friends, your family, everyone who thinks you're such a successful, honorable man. I'm going to tell them exactly what you did. You wouldn't. Try me. And I hung up. He called back immediately. I blocked his number. He texted from a different number. I blocked that too. Mrs. Cole called. Blocked. Nene called. Blocked. Even Caleb called, and that one hurt because Caleb had seemed like a genuinely good person. Auntie Lydia, he said when I answered, I just heard what happened. I'm so sorry. I didn't know about any of this, I swear. Did you know about Jasmine? I met her once when I visited Ethan. But he said she was just a friend. I didn't know they were together. And I definitely didn't know he was married to you when they started whatever they have. I believed him. Caleb had always been kind to me, and his voice now sounded genuinely distressed. Caleb, I appreciate you calling, but I can't be in contact with anyone from your family right now. I need space to heal. I understand. But Lydia? For what it's worth, my brother is an idiot. And you deserve so much better than what he gave you. Those words meant more than he knew. The weeks after I left Haven Creek were dark. I won't sugarcoat it. I cried a lot. I mourned not just the relationship, but the version of myself who had believed in fairy tales. Who had trusted so completely that she'd ignored every red flag. My parents were supportive, but I could see the pain in their eyes. My father felt guilty that he hadn't pushed harder when he'd expressed concerns. My mother felt guilty that she'd encouraged me to give love a chance. But I didn't blame them. The only person responsible for Ethan's actions was Ethan. Sarah came over one evening with wine and chocolate. "Okay," she said, settling onto my bed like we were teenagers again. "Talk to me. Tell me everything." So I did. I told her about the manipulation, the isolation, the lies. And when I got to the part about Jasmine living in his apartment the whole time, Sarah threw a pillow across the room. "That absolute piece of garbage. Lydia, I want to drive to the airport right now, fly to Germany and key his car." "Do they have cars in Germany?" "I'll key whatever he drives." Despite everything, I laughed. It was the first real laugh I'd had in months. "Sarah, you can't key someone's car internationally. Watch me." But then she got serious. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to divorce him. And I'm going to tell my story." "Tell your story how?" And that's when the idea first formed. "I'm going to make a video. Put it on YouTube. Tell everyone exactly what happened. Not for revenge, though I won't lie and say that's not part of it, but because maybe, just maybe, my story will help someone else avoid the same mistake." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "Are you sure? Once it's out there, you can't take it back." "I'm sure. I'm done being silent. I'm done protecting him and his family. They made me small, Sarah. They made me doubt myself and my worth. And I'm not going to let them do that to anyone else." It took me 2 weeks to work up the courage to film the video. I set up my phone on a tripod in my bedroom, the same room where I'd first talked to Ethan all those months ago. There was something poetic about that. I wore a simple black t-shirt. No makeup except a little concealer because I'd been crying so much my eyes were perpetually red. Band I told my story. I posted it on a Thursday evening, not expecting much. Maybe a few views from friends and family. Maybe some supportive comments. By Friday afternoon the video had 100,000 views. By Sunday, it had gone viral. Comments poured in. "This happened to me too. Thank you for speaking out. I'm going through something similar right now. Your video gave me the courage to leave. Men who do this are predators. Thank you for exposing him." But there were also negative comments. "Why would you marry someone you'd never met? You brought this on yourself. This sounds fake. Who gets married without the groom being there? You're just trying to get attention." The negative comments stung, but they didn't surprise me. I knew that people would judge me, question my decisions, blame me for being naive. But for every negative comment there were 10 positive ones. Women, and some men, sharing their own stories of being manipulated, gaslit, and betrayed by people they trusted. My video became part of a larger conversation about online relationships, long-distance romance scams, and the ways families enable abuse. And then Ethan responded. He posted his own video, and of course it was filmed in that sleek Berlin apartment I'd seen in so many of his pictures. "I want to address some allegations that have been made about me recently," he started, looking earnest and hurt. "My ex-wife and I had a complicated situation and I regret that it ended the way it did. But her characterization of events is not entirely accurate." He claimed that I'd known about Jasmine from the beginning. That our marriage was always meant to be open, and that I'd agreed to live with his family while we worked out logistics. He claimed that I'd become unstable and demanding, and that he'd tried to support me through my mental health struggles. He claimed that I'd left voluntarily and that he'd been trying to work things out with me when I suddenly posted the video. Every single word was a lie. But here's the thing about lies. They fall apart when confronted with evidence. I had text messages. Hundreds of them. Showing him promising to bring me to Germany, talking about our future together, never once mentioning Jasmine or an open marriage. I had voicemails of him calling me baby, and my wife, and talking about how much he missed me. I had screenshots of our video calls showing him in that apartment alone, no mention of anyone else living there. I made a follow-up video. This time I didn't just tell my story. I showed receipts. I blurred out personal information but showed enough to prove that everything I'd said was true. The text messages where he promised we'd be together. The calls where he reassured me that the paperwork was being processed. The emails from his mother encouraging me to stay in Haven Creek and be patient. And I showed the Facebook photos of him and Jasmine that had started this whole revelation, including timestamps proving they were together during our entire marriage. The internet did what the internet does best. They investigated. People found Jasmine's social media. Found pictures of her and Ethan together dating back months before he'd even proposed to me. They found Marcus Johnson, the friend who'd tagged Ethan in that fateful photo, and he confirmed that Ethan and Jasmine had been together since the previous summer. They even found other women, 3 of them, who came forward with similar stories. Women Ethan had romanced online, promised futures to, and then ghosted or manipulated. Ethan's carefully crafted image as a successful, family-oriented businessman crumbled. His friends distanced themselves. His business partners questioned his integrity. And Jasmine? He left him. Posted on her Instagram that she'd been lied to as well, that Ethan had told her he was single and that I was just a crazy ex who wouldn't leave him alone. Even Mrs. Cole couldn't maintain her composure. Someone leaked screenshots of text messages where she admitted to knowing about Jasmine all along and actively working to keep me in Haven Creek as insurance, in case Ethan's relationship with Jasmine didn't work out. I want to tell you that seeing all of this made me feel vindicated. That watching Ethan's lies catch up with him gave me satisfaction. And maybe part of me did feel that way. But mostly, it just felt sad. Sad that I'd wasted months of my life on someone who saw me as disposable. Sad that his family had been complicit in the deception. Sad that there were other women out there who'd experienced similar betrayals. But I also felt something else, free. 6 months after I left Haven Creek, I stood in front of the mirror in my new apartment, a small studio in downtown Savannah, and barely recognized the woman staring back at me. Not because I looked different, though I'd cut my hair short and started dressing in the bold colors and styles I'd always loved, but because I looked whole. The divorce was finalized in March, exactly 1 year after I'd first messaged Ethan on Instagram. There was poetry in that timing. He'd tried to fight it at first, claiming that the marriage wasn't legal since he hadn't been present at the ceremony. But our lawyer, a fierce woman named Ms. Patricia Washington who took my case pro bono after seeing my video, proved that the marriage was indeed legal under Georgia law. Ethan ended up owing me nothing financially. We'd had no joint assets, no shared accounts. But I didn't want his money anyway. I wanted my freedom. And I got it. Remember that online boutique idea I dreamed about? I started it. Turned out that going viral, even for tragic reasons, came with an unexpected benefit. Platform. I had hundreds of thousands of people following my story, many of whom wanted to support me. Lydia Rising became my brand. I sold clothing, yes, but more than that, I sold empowerment. Every piece came with a story about resilience, independence, and refusing to be diminished. Within 6 months, I was making more money than I'd ever made at the boutique. Within a year, I'd hired 2 employees and was shipping products internationally. The irony wasn't lost on me. Ethan had promised me an empire and I built one myself. But more important than the business success was the personal growth. I started therapy. Worked through the betrayal, the manipulation, the ways I'd allowed myself to become small. My therapist, Dr. Richardson, helped me understand that being trusting isn't a weakness, being manipulative is. You loved with your whole heart, she told me during one session. That's not something to be ashamed of. The shame belongs entirely to the person who took advantage of that love. I reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with during my months in Haven Creek. Spent long evenings with Sarah, laughing and planning and dreaming about the future. I even started dating again, though I was much more cautious this time. And much more confident in my worth. But it was an unexpected message that really showed me how far I'd come. 2 years after everything fell apart, I received a DM on Instagram. It was from Nene. Lydia, I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, and I completely understand if you delete this without reading. But I needed to reach out because I owe you an apology. I knew about Jasmine. Not all the details, but I knew Ethan was seeing someone in Germany. And I said nothing. I watched you come into our home, watched you try so hard to fit in, watched my mother manipulate you, and I said nothing. I told myself I was staying out of it, that it wasn't my business, that family loyalty meant protecting Ethan. But the truth is I was a coward. I saw you as a threat to the financial support Ethan provided, and I chose money over morality. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that leaving Mom's house was the best thing you could have done. Not just for yourself, but it woke me up too. 6 months after you left, I moved out. Got my own apartment, found a job, started actually parenting Maya instead of relying on mom to do everything. It was hard and scary and I'm still figuring it out, but I'm finally living my own life. Watching you stand up for yourself, watching you rebuild your life so publicly and successfully, it showed me that I didn't have to accept the cage I was in either. So thank you. And I'm sorry. You deserved so much better from all of us. I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to leave it on read and move on with my life. But that's not who I was anymore. I wrote back, Nene, thank you for reaching out. What happened hurt me deeply and your role in it was painful. But I can see from your message that you've done the hard work of taking responsibility and making changes. I'm not ready for us to be friends. Maybe I never will be. But I'm genuinely glad to hear that you've found your own path. Every woman deserves to live her life on her own terms, including you. I wish you and Maya all the best. And that was closure. Not dramatic. Not earth-shattering. Cases closed. Today, 3 years after I first saw Ethan's profile on Instagram, I'm sitting in my boutique, now a physical storefront in addition to the online shop, preparing to film this video. The story I'm telling you isn't just about betrayal, though betrayal is certainly part of it. It's about how easy it is to lose yourself when you're trying to become someone's wife, someone's daughter-in-law, someone's idea of who you should be. It's about how manipulation doesn't always look like obvious abuse. Sometimes it looks like a mother-in-law teaching you to cook. Sometimes it sounds like a husband telling you he's proud of how patient you're being. Sometimes it feels like love. If I could go back and talk to that 24-year-old woman who was so excited about a message from a handsome stranger, here's what I'd tell her. Love shouldn't make you smaller. It should help you grow. A man who truly loves you will move heaven and earth to be at his own wedding. Family that truly cares about you won't use guilt and isolation to control you. And your dreams, your goals, your identity, they matter. They matter just as much as anyone else's, no matter what anyone tells you. If you're watching this and you see yourself in my story, to every woman who planned a wedding that turned into a warning, this isn't your ending. It's the moment you finally learn that peace is more sacred than promises. If you're waiting for paperwork that never comes, if you're being told to be patient while your life passes by, if you're being made to feel like your feelings and needs are unreasonable, please hear me. You are not crazy. You are not ungrateful. You are not asking for too much. You are being manipulated. And you deserve better. Leaving is scary. I won't lie to you. The day I packed my bags and left Haven Creek, I was terrified. I had no job, no money, no plan beyond getting out. But staying would have been scarier. Staying would have meant losing myself completely. 3 years later, I'm running a successful business. I have my own apartment. I have friends who truly care about me. I have parents who support me. I have a life that belongs to me and me alone. Is it perfect? No. I still have moments where I doubt myself. I still have days where the betrayal stings. But I'm free. And freedom, I've learned, is worth fighting for. If you're going through something similar, please reach out for help. Talk to friends, family, a therapist, or a domestic violence hotline if you need to. You don't have to navigate this alone. And if you've already left your own Haven Creek, your own manipulative relationship, your own situation where you were made to feel small, I'm proud of you. Rebuilding is hard work and you're doing it. They say that betrayal is the deepest wound because it comes from someone you trusted. And that's true. But here's what they don't tell you. That wound can heal. It leaves a scar, yes, but scars are just proof that you survived something that tried to break you. I survived. And if you're in a situation like mine was, you can survive too. My name is Lydia Parker. I married a man who wasn't at his own wedding, spent 6 months waiting for a life that would never come, and discovered that the future I'd been promised was being lived by someone else. But that's not the end of my story. The end of my story is that I took back my power, rebuilt my life, and became the woman I was always meant to be. Not someone's wife. Not someone's daughter-in-law. Not someone's idea of who I should be. Just Lydia. And that's more than enough. 3 months after this video was posted, Ethan Cole's Instagram account was deleted. Jasmine Williams is now engaged to someone else and has publicly stated that she was also a victim of Ethan's manipulation. Mrs. Cole still lives in Haven Creek. Nene is now a registered nurse working in Atlanta, where she raises Maya as a single mother. Caleb reached out to apologize for his family's actions and has since become an advocate for healthy relationship dynamics. Lydia's boutique, Lydia Rising, now employs 15 people and has expanded to 3 locations across Georgia. She speaks regularly at events about recognizing manipulation in relationships and rebuilding after betrayal. I am currently single and focused on my business, my healing, and living life on my own terms. I used to think the worst thing that could happen was losing someone you love. But now I know, the real pain comes from losing yourself while trying to keep them. Divorce didn't destroy me. It woke me up. It reminded me that love without honesty isn't love at all. It's survival. Have you ever been in a situation where you kept holding on hoping they'd finally show up, but they never did? How did you cope when the person you loved kept giving excuses instead of effort? Did you stay or did you choose to walk away and rebuild yourself piece by piece? Sometimes walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means finally forgiving yourself for believing someone who wasn't ready to love you right. To every woman listening tonight, you are not alone. You are not too emotional, too loyal, or too much. You just loved someone who gave too little. As for whether I'll ever marry again, maybe someday. But next time the groom will definitely be at the wedding. If you've ever loved someone who wasn't really there, share your story in the comments. Your words might help another woman find her courage tonight. If my story resonates with you, please share it. Not for me, though I appreciate the support, but for the other women and men out there who might need to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more interesting real-life stories.